Hi guys, and welcome to the Recruitment CEO's Insider's Guide podcast. I am here with you today, Katie Green, with my incredible guest Andrew, founder and MD of Aston Robinson. So Andrew, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for inviting me on, Katie.
Thank you. Tell us a bit about you and your business and what you do.
So I'm Andrew Robinson. I started Aston Robinson at the back end of 2020. So I've been going for kind of 2.5 years now. We principally do the French market, so IT within France, and we specialize at the moment on DevOps, SRE, and cybersecurity recruitment.
Amazing. Thank you very much for that. So, and I know that, in those 2 years, things have changed for you. You decided to set up on your own and then move to this point. So tell us, how, if we go back to, let's say, the beginning of this year, what was happening for you back then? Why did you decide to reach out and get support for yourself?
Yeah, good question. So I previously had a business for around 5 years with a business partner and investors, and I decided to set up on my own at the back end of 2020. Which I did. So yeah, started 2021, started the business. It was quite tough getting it off the ground because I was kind of working on the old model of what I'd been doing previously, and that wasn't quite relevant to the market that I'd chosen to do. So it took me a few months to get my first clients, get my first deals, and kind of have a vision for what I was going to do. But by the back end of 2021, I started regularly doing deals and signing clients. It was much more end user focused. I'd previously been working a lot with consultants, IT consultancy firms. So I carried that on into 2022. And I had a good year. Essentially, it was a good year for quite a lot of people. And I didn't really do much in terms of business development, if I'm honest. I just basically was advert chasing on my market.
Yeah.
So I developed a really strong talent pool of candidates. And I was essentially just kind of holding my hand up on LinkedIn to companies that were recruiting, saying, I can find that for you. And because of the way the market was, most companies were kind of just, enough companies for me to do enough placements based on my objectives, coming back to me and saying, okay, let's have a chat. Right. Pretty much 100% conversion rate in terms of if I was talking to someone that was signing up, I was doing the placement. So I had quite a good year last year. But by the back end of last year, things started becoming more difficult. So my numbers just weren't there in terms of the amount of people who I was kind of contacting for advert chasing on LinkedIn weren't coming back to me. It was just more and more effort for a lot less kind of reward, essentially. So I kind of thought, well, I want to have a predictable business that I can grow. And on this basis, I'm just working like a freelance recruiter, essentially. And that's not how I want to structure things. And I've been receiving mail shots from you guys for quite a while. And I've read pretty much every single one because there's some good tips in there. And I've been doing that for probably at least a year before I decided to reach out, because although I liked the tips and I liked the content of what you were sending, I didn't really need help at that stage because my priorities were to do, X amount of deals per month, X amount of revenue. I didn't want to get over busy. I wasn't at a stage where I wanted to recruit anyone, so I didn't really reach out. But then at the back end of last year, I thought, you know what, I'll have a chat with them, which I did. And I was very happy with, kind of what I was hearing, what you proposed in the program. So that's when I decided to go for it, which I started in January of this year.
Yeah, great, amazing. And I sort of echo what you're saying. I hear this quite a lot, and I think people listening will lean into that. Off the back of COVID, there was this sort of Nirvana period, wasn't there, where people really didn't have to do business development. It was and fair play. I think we needed it. We'd had 2 years of COVID and having it tougher, and so of course people wanted to milk that time as best they could, and it was all about let's get placements in. And you're right, towards the back end of last year, I think it was even from September, maybe this time last year, I know that a lot more clients started reaching out to us and saying, look, things are, I can feel the worm is turning, and things are moving in the other direction. And off the back of that, I think for many companies, it's been quite a tough, actually, hasn't it? This year, it's been quite a tough ride for people, because if they haven't got processes or systems in place, the moment the market changes, we're just so reliant then on that market and the market conditions. Yeah. Ultimately dictating, whether we're billing at a good level or not. And it's just a very uncomfortable place to be, isn't it? Yeah. As you say.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that. I would say uncomfortable is definitely the right word. Me personally, it was becoming pretty stressful because it was just myself. Yeah. And I previously had, a business partner. I had a, structure. I had around 12 people working for us. So going from that to being solo was actually nice at the beginning. But then I started thinking, well, number one, it's quite lonely. Number two, you don't have anyone to bounce any ideas off. That was the other thing that I appreciated with the program. You've got kind of peers there, direct competitors, and you can kind of be quite frank with them. And, just the fact that you can kind of openly say, what your pain points are and hear other people echoing that, I think that's a relief. And then together, with guidance from people at Rocket, it's just having that clarity, having some different ideas. And what's quite refreshing is you often have a lot of the answers yourself, but it's just essentially holding a mirror up to you at the right time, at the right angle, if you like. And then you kind of, it gives you that confidence to make the decisions that you need to make. And then that plus the technical advice that you guys give, it's quite strong, really. So
yeah, I totally agree with that. What you don't know, you don't know. When you're caught in that loop of your own thoughts, it sort of keeps you in that perpetual cycle, doesn't it? It's like, I can't think my way out of this situation or challenge. Exactly. And we all experience it. It's not like it's not the only thing that recruiters experience. Everyone has it. But actually, you're right. When somebody could put a mirror up and help you to just start observing and digging a bit deeper into yourself, the answers always lie within. And it's so true. We say to people, growing your recruitment business to 7 figures doesn't have to be difficult. It's actually a lot simpler than you think. In fact, it can be so simple that your monkey mind doesn't want to believe that that is the case, and it wants to overcomplicate it. But it doesn't mean that it's easy. And the difference being is you have to take, as you've done, you have to take those consistent steps every day, don't you? You've got to hold yourself accountable. And obviously being in a community makes it a hell of a lot easier, because you've got a coach holding you accountable. You've got other people around you doing the same thing, but you've got to take those steps to make it different. So let's talk about the steps that you made, because you're right. You go from, oh, look, this is great. We're 12 people. Everyone's in their roles. It's all, working. People can perhaps work a little bit more in their areas of strength. When you're on your own and you're running a business, it's like, oh my God, everything is me. I'm that chief of, frigging everything. So tell us about what was one of the first things that you did with us that for you made a significant difference?
Well, two of the things that really resonated with me were getting virtual assistants and also automation, because, well, essentially I'd never really looked at virtual assistants before, because just being able to delegate even some of what you do makes such a difference in the fact that you're not alone anymore. And the cost is really low comparative to what you get in return if you obviously maximize and organize things in the right way. And then automation, it's essentially the same thing, really. It's kind of freeing up time so that you can focus on other things. Really, you've got things working in the background. You've got people working in the background, and you've got your processes working in the background. So those have been the two key kind of drivers of change for myself, which I wasn't really aware of essentially until I was in touch with you guys, because automation is quite linked to sort of technology, which you either know it or you don't. In a sense, you can you see so much stuff on the internet, and you get so many emails from companies saying, we can find candidates for you, automatically and blah blah blah, which is it's just pipe dreams essentially, delete, delete, delete. But I've probably received emails from companies that are proposing, automation tools, which I should have looked at, but obviously you guys have kind of guided me on that. So I would say those are the two big things that have made a difference to myself. So within the first few months, I got a virtual assistant to do admin. And then I started basically looking at automation tools and writing script. And it's basically down to, what's the phrase again? The gold is in the follow-up or something along those lines.
Fortunes in the follow-up.
Yeah, obviously alliteration, fortunes in the follow-up.
Yeah.
So, previously what I've been doing, like I said, was contacting decision makers on LinkedIn, maybe sending them a message or even an email, and then chasing them up once. But then because there's so many of them that go out, I was just kind of leaving it there. But when you've got the automation in place, you've got to chase up 3, 4, 5, etc. And once I'd put that in place, I was realizing that on average, it was on the third message that people were coming back to me, and I just wasn't sending a third message previously. So, the goodness knows how many the prospects I could have taken forward with that. So yeah, those have been the two main things.
And that's a really good piece of advice for those listening and we do talk about that. You're right, the fortunes in the follow-up, because people don't realize that most people, and particularly recruiters, we're salespeople, and so we do have that shiny squirrel syndrome of, I just got to move on to the next thing. And actually, only 2% of people follow up on that second message, 3% on that third. But the reality is that most of our clients and our candidates, if you're talking to them, don't actually, I'm going to say buy, but it's not the right word, engage or as you're saying, raise their hand, is actually at the fifth or further. I mean, your messaging sequence was obviously very well targeted and hitting the pain points and desires of those people, because it was doing the right job, cutting through the noise that we know is out there now. But yeah, when you know that and you realize, gosh, that's 80% of my clients, I've got to have that follow-up sequence, or my candidates, because otherwise you're right. They're left hanging in the ethos. So you set that system up, you got that automated, you hired yourself a VA. And what, just on average, because you talked about that sort of what I call time freedom coming back, that sense of, oh my gosh, that's lovely. Right. Now I can sort of, raise myself up above the sort of day-to-day activity to say strategically, what is it that I want to be doing in my business, and get some processes in place. But on average, have you got any idea of how much time that saved you, either on a day or on a week, just by having those things taken off your plate?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's at least 2 hours per day, which is a lot. If you're working 8, 9, and it's going back to 6 or 7, it makes such a difference. It's not that I've probably used that time to work less. I just work on other things, researching a lot more into the businesses that I'm going to be targeting, or just looking after sort of more macro things within the business. But it's not only that, it's delegating things. Well, I mean, you're going to the program, but delegating things that you don't like doing, or you're not good at doing, or worse, that or both, essentially. So I've actually got someone doing a lot of my LinkedIn work now, a lot of my LinkedIn research work, which I hate doing. Been doing it for 12 years now, and that's one of the things I've just wanted to step away from for quite a long time. So I've got a second virtual assistant now.
Amazing.
Who spends something like 6 hours of the day going through LinkedIn profiles and making folders and projects and things like that. So that, again, that's another 1 to 2 hours per day, because obviously she's not as efficient at doing it at this stage that I am. So it'll take her a longer time, but over time, as she gets better at it, then I'll be able to give her more projects to do. So saved a lot of time by doing that as well.
Awesome. Okay, so you set that up. So now you've got a consistent flow of those candidates coming in, because for you it was about candidates was your key, wasn't it, rather than clients? Am I right?
It's actually the other way around.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, I've actually been quite good at sort of developing and nurturing a candidate pool. It's been more the prospecting side of things where I've lacked consistency. So I've always been pretty decent at converting clients when I've got, a client who's looking for a recruiter, and that if they're in front of me, I'm pretty decent, without being pretentious. It's kind of converting
Yeah.
them. I think, the fact that I've got 12 years experience, I'm on a niche market, and I'm the director of the company, that does obviously hold a lot of sway. But the problem I had was the numbers. I wasn't getting in front of enough people. So that's where the automation and the consistency is coming. So essentially, what I've been looking to do was to speak to at least one decision maker per week in a company, which the rocket program has got me to that stage now. Now I want to get to kind of at least two or three, and you can always make improvements. And the summer hasn't been too kind either. Things have obviously dropped off, but I can see that they're starting to pick up now. But yeah, essentially what I was doing was the MPC model with automation, so automated sequences. So basically saying, look, here's a great candidate who can do what you're looking for, and then kind of chase ups after that. So a few days later, a week later, a month later, did you fill that role? If not, you must be getting frustrated. Let's have a talk, etc. So yeah, I've gone from kind of maybe just speaking to one client, one prospect per month, and now speaking to at least one per week. I'm not always converting them, but that's a kind of work in progress, in the sense that who I'm targeting, what I'm saying to them, that type of thing. You've got to constantly refine it, doing A/B testing on your sequencing and things like that. So yeah, that's where I'm
Yeah,
at.
definitely. There it's about version 1, but you've already got one a week. You've
Yep.
quadrupled your output on that.
Yeah,
And then
exactly. Yeah.
imagine what that will be like exactly as you do. And this is also the thing, isn't it? I think for people to realize is, we'd all love to know that there's a magic pill. I just take it and everything is sorted. And yes, exactly, there are tools, and all putting specific machines and systems into your business that does like the heavy work, as you're saying, is absolutely critical if you're going to move to that predictable revenue that you talked about right at the beginning of our conversation. Predictable, reliable revenue. And of course, there's got to be a little bit of tweaking as you go along to get that really nailed. But you're right. I mean, you're one person. So if you then had, a team of 4 people and they were producing 4 clients a week, and therefore you get to the point where you're converting all of those, that's a very healthy, predictable revenue. So I think, give yourself a break. What you put into place already is outstanding. So you've got that business development machine that's now generating that consistent flow for you of candidates, and you're using, like you say, a most valuable candidate, most placeable candidate, you're taking those to market. So you've got a business development strategy that's actually working for you, rather than sort of moving from
really,
one option to another. Do I chase the lead? Do I look at an advert? Do I go and call this client? Do I cold call? What do I do? So it's honing in on one particular source or strategy that works for you.
Yeah, exactly. I think it'd be a multifaceted strategy, but when you know that at least one element's working, it gives you the confidence to explore other ones. I think it's quite fun actually doing the tweaking, because when you know that fundamentally you're onto something, and if you've got a growth mindset and you kind of each week you want to make things better, get more quality or more quantity, or ideally both, it's quite satisfying. But I think that's fundamentally what the program brought to me. It was to show me categorically this is the sort of thing that works, do this. And then, if you want to come back and refine it, we can help you with that. Or if you want to go on your own for a little bit and kind of find your feet with it and get, when you need some structure to go to the next step, come back. That's one of the things I, really appreciated about it. So
yeah, great. And what else? What else for you, either personally or professionally? Because you mentioned something around, you said their growth mindset, and you mentioned about mindset right at the beginning of our conversation. What's changed for you in that sense? Like, how do you feel you've changed as a business owner?
I think I've just got
mindset.
more confidence. Essentially, I've always had I like to think I've always had a growth mindset, because I'm always looking to improve things, and I think that's why I found it was a good fit with you guys, because we've got a similar mentality, but you guys have got more experience. And like I was saying earlier, the holding the mirror thing up, you've obviously seen and see on a daily, weekly basis people in very different situations. I mean, what I do is the French market IT from England, which, I doubt you've got even one other company that does exactly that, but we've got so many common threads between what we do. It doesn't have to be IT, it doesn't have to be international, and we all go through the same types of pain. So yeah, I think that's brought some more confidence to the table. Essentially, it's kind of shown me, look, you can do this. Here are some pragmatic steps that you can take to take things forward, and also things to kind of reflect on, analyze, look at, improve on. And that, like I said, that kind of fits with my mindset. It's just kind of giving you practical advice of how to apply it, essentially.
Yeah, definitely. And I think when you're on your own, as you said, again, it's a very lonely place, isn't it?
It is, definitely.
For people. Whereas when you're in that community, you've got that energy, you've got those people, as you're saying, taking the same steps. And it gives you inner confidence when you're not alone, because I think a lot of people feel like, oh, is it only happening to me? Everyone else out there looks like they're being really, really successful. Are they having these challenges? Yeah.
Well, it's a perception thing, isn't it? It can be, in our game, it's a really strong cards to play. You can look like you've got a team of 10 people when there's just you, but also conversely, you see other people posting things and you think, why are they doing so well? And you look on the website, they've got all these jobs on and things like that, and you think, well, why have I only got 2 jobs? They've got 6 of them and there's only 2 people. And when you delve into it, you can see that, a lot of it is just the facade, but you can make that your reality as well. But that's why it's good to be able to have frank conversations with your peers in the community as well, because they could be one of those people and say, oh, well, those 6 jobs, we filled 2 of them, but we keep them up there for, perception or candidate attraction or whatever. And you think, oh, that makes sense. But unless you kind of look behind the curtain, then you don't know what's going on there. So
yeah, absolutely. So what would you say to the I was going to say younger version of you, but I don't mean as in age, but I mean as in where you were with your business? If you were to go back, let's say even this time last year when things were dropping off or at the beginning of the year, what advice would you give to somebody in that position?
Good question. Well, if it was a year ago, I'd probably just get on your program earlier, and then that would accelerate, the kind of progress that I've made. But just apply those lessons, really. Essentially, just say, look, automation, virtual assistants, processes. Just kind of start nailing that down and look beyond what you're doing, and just look. If you want stability, you need predictability. Predictability doesn't come from sort of ad hoc, whimsical kind of actions that you take on a daily basis based on how much energy you've got, how you're feeling, what you see on the internet, what's in your inbox. You can't be predictable if you do that. You've got to have a structure and then follow the structure. You've got to get that balance between being rigid and not giving yourself any wiggle room of doing the things that you don't want to do, but that they'll pay off, but also not being too stubborn and doing something that, you're repeating the same thing. It's getting, not getting the result that you like. So yeah, I think I'd probably just have a word with myself with regards to those aspects.
Brilliantly put. Couldn't have said that better. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing your journey as well. And I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, and I hope our listeners enjoy it as much as I have, and they walk away with one nugget of information on all the gems that you've shared today, just about what they can implement into their business. And if you want these shifts in your business with the less time and energy, those simple systems and tactics that Andrew shared about growing your business and creating more abundance with less stress, that's what it's about, then reach out to us. We would love to help you. And please drop a comment, give us a review below for our podcast. We'd really, really appreciate that. So Andrew, thank you so much. You have been an absolute gentleman. You're welcome back anytime on our podcast. Thanks. Thank you. And we will see you again, listeners, for our next episode. Thanks for tuning in.